Casual Magic has been brought to you by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can get cool stuff. Use the code CASUAL to get 5% off of your sale. And then also by Coalesce Apparel, where you can get really cool t-shirts and stuff, and use the code CASUALMAGIC to get 10% off your sale. And by Archidekt, a deck hosting website that doesn't really sell anything, but they like me and I like them, so kindly use them. And now, on to the show. Hello and welcome to Casual Magic, the show where we talk about the fun side of Magic the Gathering. My name is Shivam, and Casual Magic is brought to you by Coalesce Apparel, Cool Stuff Inc., and Archidekt. I love them, they love me, so you all should love them too. Today is a super special, I had to actually get permission from Wizards of the Coast to do this episode featuring my dear friend, set designer, vision, lead designer, something, whatever designer, Corey Bowen from Wizards of the Coast, to talk about Commander Legends Battle for Baldur's Gate, or whatever the hell it's called. Commander Legends 2, as I've been calling it because the name is a mouthful. The multiplayer set that's going to carry us through summer since we're all tired of New Capenna. I was lucky enough to have been able to participate in a pre-release event that we pre-recorded content for that will be coming up after the publication of this show, so I can't talk about what we did. However, around the time of the release of the set, I suggest you all look at Loading Ready Run and check out some of the videos that are there, and you might find a surprising guest who has showed up and played a surprising pod of Legends, Commander Legends 2. Corey, this set is sick. Like,
yeah. I'm so glad you think so, Shivam.
Dude, I had to ask Blake, who is our dear friend, communications boss, and the guy you have to ask whenever you ask for permission. And I'm like, look, I got to go up and do a thing, and I really want to talk to Corey about what I learned from my draft. Can I do that? And he's like, only if you don't publish until after Memorial Day. And lo, here we are. But let me tell you guys, first off, my experience with this is these packs are 20 card packs, so they're thick. Mm-hmm. They're bananas. We cracked open the draft box, and the draft is like, I guess I should just establish, and I'm just going to set up like what this is, and then we can talk about more detailed cards and stuff.
Sure.
But like, just for the audience who doesn't know, if you haven't drafted one of these, because a lot of us didn't get a chance to draft the first Commander Legends because it was the heart of lockdown when that came out. Mm-hmm. Which is a real shame now that I think about it. But basically, Commander Legends is a commander draft, which, if you haven't heard of before, is a set where basically you're building a 60-card deck, which is already really difficult to do if you're used to 40 cards or 100 cards. You're drafting a 60-card deck. You can use duplicates, but you also have to draft your commander. And this is the thing that nearly caught us off guard a lot, because a lot of us have old school draft chops where it's like, oh, I'm going to take the best green card, the best black card. And then someone's like, hey, do you have a commander yet? It's like, oh, no. Oh, crap. I need to find somebody who's going to make these cards I've got work. So you should prioritize getting your commander first so that you find a lane quickly before you hose yourself. So the way this works is there are a handful of multicolored legends which act as normal commanders. It's like 3-color, 2-color, whatever you get it. But almost all of the monocolored legends, maybe all, is it all? Yeah. All the monocolored legends have a thing called choose a background on it. Choose a background means there are a series of legendary enchantments that you can draft that are basically monocolored enchantments that if you have a commander who's got a text that says choose a background, you can take one of these legendary enchantments and put it into your command zone, and it acts as a pseudo commander for purposes of deck building and color identity, which is a very, just from a system level standpoint, that's a very clever trick in order to keep this from mucking up the pool of partners that's already been completely washed from Commander Legends 1. But it also gives you a way to balance the draft and make this actually playable. But some of these, as we're going to talk about, some of these enchantments are so good that I would run them in the 99 of like half of my decks clean because they're disgusting. But so with that, you can get basically a 2-color pair. There's No 4 or 5 color commanders in this set. I'm kind of bummed about that because I wish there was like a 5 color Tiamat or a Bahamut or something, but nope. The best you can do is 3 colors, which is good for keeping you from drafting good stuff. There's infinite mana fixing in this set, like way more than I possibly imagined there would be. Incidental random crap that just taps for any color of mana. It's like, what? Like, there's a walrus? There's a walrus that scries and taps for mana? I don't understand. And I was like, where does this even come from? However, I love this card and I would die for it. So there you go. But yeah, so you draft your commander and then you draft 60 cards and then you run into the biggest problem I've had with Magic ever, which is how many lands do you play in a draft deck that is 60 cards, not 40? Now, some of you are more experienced players. I think the number that we all kind of landed on was like somewhere between 23 and 26, 24 and 27, somewhere in that up and downiness. So effectively you end up with like 59 cards, of which 35, give or take, are cards and the rest are lands. And then your commander on the side, or 58 and 2. And then you play a game of Commander. And it's a game of Commander. It's exactly like what you think it is, except you can have dupes because it's draft. Commander damage works, 40 life, the whole shebang. It is a blast. It is an absolute blast. Especially like when we were looking at the previews. We were looking and we saw like Infinite Goad and Infinite Myriad, and I'm like, the problem a lot of us Commander fans has, we're looking at this from just the standpoint of Commander as a unit unto itself and not under limited standards. And you're like, damn, that's a lot of goad going on. But when you're actually playing, you're like, oh, this keeps the game way moving and it's super political. It's really interesting. It's hella fun. And Myriad is one of my favorite mechanics of all time because it takes away the pressure of who do I attack? Oh no, I flip a coin. Okay. Oh no, I'm bad at thrust. No, all of you are getting attacked. That is what's happening. All of you are going to die, and that's just the end of the story. It's great. And there's also one more mechanic in there that I'll just briefly mention because it'll also come up super important. Taking the initiative. Taking the initiative is if you've got a creature or something and it says, like, this comes into play, you take the initiative. What that means is it's basically a card that sits in front of you just like Monarch did. You can either take it from the person who's currently got it, or you generate it in the game and now it's just in the game forever. And when you take the initiative, you enter a dungeon called the Undercity. Each step of that dungeon is gross and amazing and like game-breakingly good, and it's hella fun. And if you do combat damage to a player who's got the initiative, you get the initiative back, which is the secret tech of Myriad that we didn't understand until we started playing. And we're like, oh, this is going to be gross. I can just swing at you with my main guy because you got no blockers, but this Myriad one's going to hit you, and I'm going to get initiative anyways. And it's like, yeah, you feel real good about that. All 4 of us were able to max out the dungeon and get to the bottom tier, which is like flip over 10 cards, pick a creature, put 3/1/1 counters on it, and it gets hexproof until your next turn.
Yeah.
That is disgusting. Disgusting.
Yeah.
But like even the level 1 is just, search for a land. That's awesome. And then like we all ended up using the Goad one because Goad ends up being, so if you guys aren't familiar with Goad, and I will let Corey talk in a minute, I promise you he's here. Goad. Goad is sweet and also not sweet at the same time. What it is, well, okay. Goad, first off, is basically choose a creature. That creature must attack somebody who is not you next turn and can't block this turn. So it's good for getting a blocker out of the way. It's also good for forcing them to attack somebody else with their double striking commander who's about to hit you for 16 commander damage. It is awesome. The problem with Goad I have is when it's like Goad everything or mass Goad or just repeated goading. That's real pain. But some of these like little combat tricks and stuff, or like the one-off that's in the dungeon, is great. Oh no, Goad isn't that they can't block. It's that there was a card called Coronation of Chaos, which is up to 3 creatures can't block and then get goaded, which is, by the way, one of my favorite cards in the set.
Oh, I love that card. I'm a very big fan of that one.
For being a random sorcery common, up to 3 creatures can't block, goad them is busted. Busted. Holy crap. First off, even the base level scenario, oops, your noble hierarch has to attack. Sorry. But the other level is, hey, that Voltron commander you've got who's got 38 tokens on him is going to go attack somebody else. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, up to until your next turn, a goaded creature attacks each combat if able and attacks a player other than you, which means if they end up doing multiple combats, they still can't thug you, which is great. I love one-off goad. I love one-off goad. I hate everybody gets goaded all the time. Why did you put so much? I mean, I know from my now played experience, goad is super good in this limited environment. Myriad is super good in this limited environment. But were you worried about putting? Well, I guess before we get into that, hi Corey.
Hello.
How was your experience building Baldur's Gate?
My experience, excuse me, my experience was long and arduous. It was actually my first booster draft set I've been the lead of up
Wow,
until
congratulations.
now. Thank
That's
you.
a hell of a set to lead.
Oh yeah, it's a big
There's
one.
a
You know,
million
up until
cards
now.
in this set.
Sorry?
There's a million cards in this set.
There are a million cards in this set. Commander Legends 1 was hard enough. There's maybe twice the amount of new cards in this one we needed to do. So it's a lot. It was a big responsibility. And hearing you preamble for 10 minutes without me getting a word in about how excited you are about it really justifies the whole process. I'm like, oh, great. Surely I did a great job.
Sorry. I just had to lay the groundwork because this show is going out before the set does. And not everybody might be as engaged as we are in terms of what it is. But also because this set rocked and I had a great time playing it. So I'd want to start off with, so first off, being your first draft set, like you've led a bunch of commander sets before, and I know you've done a lot of like pre-cons. Were you able to take any of that, like, and you have a deep understanding of the commander format as well, but limited is not the same as making a pre-constructed deck, even if you've got that Thunderdome environment, because you don't know how 4 random strangers are going to build their decks out of 350 cards. What kind of learnings did you take from knowing how to build pre-con decks that can fight each other in a balanced environment? And how did you apply that to making these cards in Commander Legends?
Yeah, a lot of my learnings from pre-cons was a lot about like what are the building blocks of a fundamental commander deck that need to be present, and like what can you push on that would make it no longer a commander deck, or what you could push on that keeps it feeling like commander. In pre-constructed decks, there's somewhat of a limit of what kind of cards we can put in there, and so it's like, okay, how much ramp can I put in that keeps this deck, how much removal or whatever. Well, how much of this like other quirky group, like when I'm trying different cards in pre-cons, I'm kind of, feeling out the limits when I'm iterating on so many decks of, what are the core elements that this needs. You see in a lot of like older pre-cons, there's a lot of like new political cards, and a lot of pre-cons I try to have some political cards as well that typically don't make it into people's decks, but I think bring a really good feel into those games feeling like commanders, even if people take them out of their decks later, feeling like commander decks. And what you're saying with Goad, with the politics in this set, a lot of that, translates pretty well.
Yeah, it felt very much like this set had a lot of... So you make actually a very interesting point there, so I'm going to tangent into that and then bring it back to Goad in just a second. And one of the things you're saying here is like, I've noticed from being on the CAG and doing Commander deeply for many, many years now, is that a lot of people at lower tiers of power or lower tiers of engagement will do things like, I'm building a deck that's on theme. Every card is on theme. Every card fulfills a piece of this machine in order for me to do the combo or make the end state that I want. And in doing so, they don't leave a lot of room for interactivity or for thinking about what the like. For instance, this is one of my personal failings that taken me years and years of Magic play to get over, which is that when I'm building a deck, I'm thinking about Magical Christmas Land, of the perfect, what happens if everything goes right and I can build this whole Rube Goldberg and then the whole system will work. And I'm not thinking about, oh, what happens if somebody casts one disruption spell on me? What happens if they cast a wrath? What happens if my deck is like fragile to everything, right? Like, because it's made to do this one thing, and every card in there, because I've got like 60 cards to work with. I've put them all in there specifically for this. One of the things I think that Legends does very well, and that the commander philosophy I think of precons has been changing, is that you guys are making more cards that not only fulfill that function of me, low level player, wanting to have a zombie in my zombie deck, but also incidentally
Oh, yeah.
spread out the stuff to interact with other people's boards. And that I think is such a genius way of teaching people that you have to look at the other table. Like,
Mhm.
and because I know a lot of CEDH players give me crap all the time, like, oh my god, you don't run any interaction, you don't run any point remove. I'm like, dude, I've got my Swords of Plowshares and my Path of Exile. Calm down, it's okay. But it's more like I'm not running 12 counter spells, right? I'm running one or two. And but when you got something like, you know, this Coronation of Chaos here that we just talked about, it lets me get my Alpha Strike through, which is what my combat-based team wants to do, and also forces interaction by making you make bad choices to attack other players and get them mad at you instead of at me, and then you get this kind of like counterplay back and forth. And similarly, Myriad takes away a lot of that angst of those first hits of like, oh god, I want to hit him, but if I hit him, have I been bullying him too much? Should I be maybe attacking somebody else? But then it's like, oh no, the threat is well, no, now I swing and everybody's gonna get hit. GG's, you figure it out. Like
Right.
one of my strongest creatures in the game so far was that stupid cat on the toucan.
Yes, the
Tabaxi toucaneers or whatever it is. And it's just like I got my my Undercity got down to give me +2 token. Look at there's your cat on your toucan. I got 2 tokens onto that thing, so it became a 5 attack. So that means like, okay, I can attack player A for 5, and then 2/3/2s are gonna come flying out at B and C, and then the politics like who's gonna get the bigger hit. And for a large chunk of the game, that was like the scariest thing on the table because it's just chunking life. Oh, it's so good. But yeah, with that though, I like this idea that you guys have been pushing more of giving us not like giving us the kind of these helpful choices to make people understand the value of, like, I think Magic, I guess, have been doing that a lot, especially with Arena Best of One stuff. You guys have been making more cards that are modal, more cards that are like, it does this very specific thing, but in the off chance that thing doesn't come up, it also draws you 2 cards or whatever it is. You know, like, or like Adventure. I guess Adventure is also in this set and fulfills that exact function. Right now, I can use this to kill a flyer. Next turn, I can play a 3/5 that blocks and has reach or whatever, right?
Yeah, no, with Adventure specifically, there's so many like bigger creatures with Adventure and all the Adventures like interaction spells. And those were ways for us to backdoor some interaction into your deck. Is like, hey, some players just want the cool big dragon. Well, I'm going to force you to put a naturalize in your deck, I think, if you do this. Or I guess that's on some other cards. But
well, yeah, I was just looking at my Guardian Naga here, which
right.
is the one of my favorite cards in the set, by the way. Just randomly, a 5/6 common for 7. Like this
Yes.
is, it should be a garbage card, but it's got Adventure on it for 2 and a white, which is exile target enchantment or artifact instant, which is sweet. That's a disenchant, or even better than disenchant, exile, right? But then at 7 mana, so like 5 turns later or whatever, I can put this thing out and get a 5/6 vigilance that, as long as my turn, prevent all damage that would be dealt to it, which is gross. I love this card.
Right. Lots to talk about that card. Like, first of all,
and the art is sweet.
Right. It's not just backdooring. Like, that card is not just sneaking interaction into people who want the big creature, but it's also sneaking a big creature into the decks of people who want to play interaction, which is also very key here.
Yes. Force those people who are just draw go counterspell players to actually use a damn creature for once.
Exactly.
Combat skip is your friend.
Yeah, with the all the goad, all the myriad, all of these like big creatures and stuff. So many of the decisions in this set is based off of like looking how Commander Legends 1 did, and then really thinking, all right, how do I get people to just attack each other as much as possible? Like, I need the game to end by attacking.
I think that is actually a really important and salient philosophical point for Commander in general, which is that we have had a very big, in the past, let's say 5-6 years, there's been a big problem that Commander has moved. Oh, I mean, I guess even since the beginning, Commander has just been very afraid of the combat step and very heavily into I'm going to do my combo or do my ad nods or do my counter or whatever and like go off. But there's been a concerted effort on your end to force people to remember that combat exists. And I think that's in Magic overall too. Like we've moved far
Mhm.
away from playing storm decks, right? Like now you actually have. I mean, you got Shota Yasaoka sitting there playing Jund for God's sakes in the championship for New Capenna, and he's like the most counter player of all time. Um, but I think you've done a really good job, especially with the limited environment. How would you expect the limited nature of this, or like this idea of being able to introduce more combat into games, to translate to Commander wider than just Legends?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the backgrounds, surely there's backgrounds that aren't combat focused, but many of the backgrounds are combat focused, and
Yeah,
many of the backgrounds are give you pretty pushed rewards for attacking your opponents or attacking your opponent who is winning or so and so. How it impacts the larger format, I think it's yet to see. For people who are playing partner decks, they'll sooner or later realize that backgrounds are nuts in those decks.
background, dude. I think everybody looked at the background and what it says commanders you
Yep.
control, and then we were like, oh no, oh this is
Uh-oh.
stupid. There's one of those commanders, I mean, one of those backgrounds gives +10/+10.
Yeah, it sets your base power and toughness to
Like
10/10
I don't
because
know
you're
if you're
raised by
familiar with
giants.
Enchantress decks that happen to run green that are just going to tutor for that thing, put it into play, and have my Tuvasa Voltron you out like immediately.
That's the way to go. If
Oh,
you're
so
attacking me
clean.
with your 10/10 commander, I think I've done a job well done. Stop. I don't want to watch you draw a million cards, Enchantress player. Please just hit me.
My Enchantress deck is a secret Rafik deck for a reason. I just
Mhm.
want to put big auras on him and then just punch you in the face, um, which is really all I want to do with every commander deck I make. Um, but I think this just I think there was also a really good step that was taken with Legends too, which is there are not as many egregious cards of Hull Breacher level or Jeweled Lotus level, or
Mhm.
just like opposition agent or whatever garbage came from CL, friggin' Krark or the Thumbless or like Krakashima or Sakashima, whatever.
Fukushima. Yeah, I've seen a lot of comments about the power level. Obviously there's for, obviously there's against for, kind of the
Mhm.
power level of the format and the set in general. When I think about Hull Breacher and opposition agents, I'm very happy with Archivist of Ogma, which is a card we release that's
I
one and a
think that
dub
card's lit.
for a flash creature, and it makes it so when your opponents search their library, you draw a card and gain life.
Yeah.
And with Hull Breacher and Opposition Agent, they were hoser cards, and they were hosing things that should have been hosed, but they were denying those actions and producing resources for you, which felt very bad. It felt terrible for that to
I just
happen to you.
Hull Breacher was egregious.
Yeah.
That card is a messed up card that really ought to have never been made. Because like I understand what you were trying for, but god damn, dude, you guys missed way high on that one. Like this card being that for those of you who don't remember the Winter of Hull Breacher, Flash 3/2, which if an opponent would draw a card except for the first one, instead you create a treasure. So they don't get the draw,
Instead.
fine, and you get the treasure, which is like obscene. Like if it was either or, that would be right. Like I think the archivist you made is going
Mhm.
the right direction. It's not taking away from them, however, it is subtly encouraging them not to do this. It's like,
Yeah.
hey man, if you want me to get a lot of stuff, I am happy to take your resources without doing the work. And
Yeah.
that gently disincentivizes them from wanting to do this. But like Oppo is just like I'm now afraid to crack Evolving Wilds, or like Hull Breacher is like, well, you're just gonna wheel lock me out of the game, and that's gonna be great. Um,
Mhm.
I think your mind was in the right place, but it was off by a jabillion. Um, God, this set is. I love how thought provoking this set has been for me. Just like looking at it in terms of like Commander on the grand scheme of things, and also just playing it from a limited standpoint. Um, I really wish you would let us draft Soul Ring once. I think that would be really, really cool.
It's hard to figure out what rarity Soul Ring should be.
It should be ultra mythic, right?
I'm
Like
just like
one per case.
it's so much more powerful than any other card you could draft, but it's like I don't know, it's
I
in
think
every
Soul Ring is
deck.
like the second most powerful card of all time.
Yeah, it makes me laugh so much that like Command Tower is like a common or something, and
Yeah,
then like
right.
it's like the rare lands are just like so much worse.
Right? Like, oh look, I can get this untapped if there's a couple of players, or I can have a command tower.
Yeah, it
I'll
makes me
take that
laugh.
one.
Yeah, it makes me laugh every time I see it. I'm like, oh, Command Tower, you're just in the wrong place.
Look, man, I'm not gonna lie to you. My first pick was an arcane signet.
I think that's the way to go. I think you're supposed to
Like
snatch up a bunch of two
because
mana rocks.
my rare was the Wizards of Thay, which is a
Ooh,
blue legend that like makes instants or sorcery cheaper or something like that.
it
But it
has
was
Myriad.
yeah, but it's also not the kind of game I want to play. You know,
Hmm.
like that's not the player I am. And I was like, I don't really want to do this. But like the two cards I saw in there first, I saw the arcane signet. And I'm like, first off, I want the new art, so I'm just taking this card because I love it.
Right.
But and it's also like I didn't at pack one, pick one. When I'm just looking at the thing, I didn't have a good idea of just how absurd mono fixing was. Like
Hmm.
if I realized how good and easy mono fixing is, I might not have prioritized it quite as high. But I took that and I took Wilson because I needed to have
Wilson.
tea drinking bear on my team. Like
Yeah.
king of keyword soup over here, right? Like I mean, this is the most overpowered bear of all time.
It's pretty strong for a 2 mana tutu. That's true.
Dude, vigilance, reach, trample, can't be countered, and ward.
Yeah, it was stronger when it had Death Touch, but
What
that
the
was
hell
really.
is wrong with you? Death touch.
Yeah,
And it goes in Nagila because it's a warrior.
yeah. Oh, that's right. It's a Bear Warrior. Yeah, Wilson's great. I'm a big fan of Wilson.
Yeah.
I was
Pack
very
one, pick one,
much.
easy.
Yeah, I was like, let's do this bear character. That's hilarious.
You know what card stole my heart? Like, just like I looked at it and I'm like, this is nuts.
Hmm.
Is this great sort of tier enchantment that you made and equipment
Equipment.
that like when it attacks, when equipped creature attacks, put a 1/1 counter on it and tap up to one target creature defending player controls. That's like, I would pick that first in a standard set.
Yeah, you'll
Like,
see that there's a lot of like limited level cards like that, and like Coronation of Chaos is another
oh yeah,
example.
so good.
There's these like limited level cards that are really pushed in this set because they're not as good in multiplayer, but then when you play them, they're really potent for what they are as commons and great sort of tiers. Like, yeah,
That card
that's
is
incredible
nuts.
for a standard common. It's also Coronation of Chaos is also like
Oh my god,
really
dude, I'd
great.
play that in a heartbeat. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
But the one that really actually got me, I'm trying to look through and find it right now. I have my stack of draft cards in front of me. Um, Hammer Morden, by the way, love that card.
Mhm.
Myriad and tap down a thing for each one. That's sweet. Myriad is so clever and
Mhm.
and it enables so many silly things that you don't see coming.
Yeah.
But there was this one white card. I think it's like you run into robbers or something like that. Um, or you encounter some robbers or something, and it's a choice card. One
Mhm.
of them is tap 3 creatures that. Oh, your cat.
The cat is
It's a,
attacking. I'm sorry.
yeah. One of them is like tap down 3 creatures. The other choice is make 3 soldiers instant speed, and I'm like, this is phenomenal. It
Mhm.
is like 2 great cards put together, right? Like one is I can alpha strike you, which is what white wants to do, or 2 is I can like timeless reinforcements myself and get a handful of soldiers to block whatever you're doing. I
Right.
love that. I
And
want that standard. I mean, I'm gonna put it in my soldiers deck right now. I love this card.
right. And this goes back to sneaking in kind of certain things in your decks. There's a lot of different reasons to have tokens. There's a lot of different token synergies from different color pairs.
Yes.
So if you're picking this for the tokens, bam, maybe in the late game, I've just given you a way to end the game by tapping down some blockers and going in for the attack. And we're really pushing for more board breakers to get people to do that.
So it does feel though that there was a lot of mono fixing in this set. Like even
Yeah.
random things like this decanter of endless water, which is like you have no hand size, tap for any color. Like that's a monolith plus, right?
Right. Because you're constrained by color identity. There's not a lot of danger, like the high ceiling of the dangers of too much mono fixing. I'm not worried about every player going 5 colors because they just strictly can't be 5 colors. And I think on average, maybe not always true, the 2 color combinations have more focused themes and than the 3 color combinations. Yes. So when you're playing 3 color, yeah, you're gonna have good fixing. I don't really want the downside of playing 3 color to be that you're going to have a bad time not being able to cast your spells. Sure. The downside is more of that the themes aren't as focused, albeit the Grixis Dragon, or not the Temur Dragon's theme is very focused.
Oh my god,
but it's good. But the rest of them, their themes on average are a little bit unfocused, and so the better the fixing is, it's just I'm just avoiding the negatives of I can't cast a spell, what's going on, because you're already gated by color in this other rule set way. I don't need to gate you otherwise.
So I want to talk to you about 2 cards specifically.
Sure.
Well, actually, I want to talk to you about like 400 cards specifically, but
360 actually,
give or take a few. First off, there's these 2 cards. Okay, should I talk about diamonds first, or should I talk about these cards first? Oh, we're still on mono fixing, so let's talk about the diamonds first.
Right.
I hate the diamonds.
Cool.
Like, I think they're fine cards or whatever, but it's weird to have like they were medium when they came out the first time. Like, it's a 2 mana rock that taps for 1 and comes to play tapped. Why are they in here?
Yeah, they're in here because they interact with draft in the exact way we want them to be. They are 2 mana rocks that will float to the player who is playing that color because they're of a monocolor color identity. All of the color, all like Arcane Signet and the other ones, those you just kind of snatch up right away, and then
that makes a lot of sense.
Blue, why I can't pick Fire Diamond, and so those will actually float to someone who is speculating in that color.
Yeah, because I know that there was one time because I was in white and I was going for the Boros because I had the Boros General, the Leandra, whatever. She's the one who exiles cards. Yeah, never actually showed up in play, but that was fine. But I was like drafting that, and then like 2 seats down from me, my friend is like, "By the way, Shivam, I got both Marble Diamonds in this pack." So because there was a normal and an alt art, and I was like, I'm going to kill you first. I didn't, but I tried. But yeah, like, was there any thought to printing like maybe the medallions? Because the medallions would print and also help in the same kind of way.
Yeah, the medallions I don't think would have accomplished a similar goal. Like, I think the medallions, I would love to see them somewhere, but for draft, I think they're just a little too awkward. Oh, here, like, because the Fire Diamonds are these, or the Diamond Cycle, they're these common mana rocks that are floating to you. If it was like Marble Diamond, then, I pick it, and what if I'm 3 colors, and, like, you played an Archidekt or what such and such, and if you drew your marble or your
fire,
your medallion, your white medallion, I don't remember what they're called.
Oh, a pearl medallion? Something? No, it's
whatever. You played your medallion that makes your white spells cost 1 less. Well, that is terrible in your 3 color deck where maybe you have red and green cards in your hand. Fair. And so for the draft exclusively, it didn't make sense.
Well, then I will put out a request that you guys should find another precon to slot those into somewhere, because they're very good for monocolor decks, especially, and hard to get these days. Just something to keep in mind. But the cards I wanted to talk to you about, the other 2 cards, which are also... Sorry, folks, I drafted white. I know I've got to type, but look, the cards are coming to me, and I'm going to take the cards that are coming to me. But these 2 cards are actually phenomenal. One is your Temple is under attack, which is the 2 and a white instant, and it's a modal card. And the first choice is Pray for Protection, which is creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. Fantastic. And the second ability, Strike a Deal. You and target opponent each draw 2 cards. Wow. First off, this is like utterly sick in every situation you want it to be. I need cards. Great. I'm going to politicize with you. Okay, look, nobody really likes Secret Rendezvous, but sometimes in a pinch, when you need cards, you make a deal, right? But getting the bonus half of turn your team indestructible, ooh,
Yeah, that's a staple effect for many decks, and it comes with this incredible modality. Yeah, this is probably my favorite modal card in this set, to be honest with you. I'm very excited to play this in all of my white decks.
Oh, it's going right into my soldiers deck because this is like on theme. It's beautiful. I love it. But yeah, it's such a flavorful batch of effects together, and it
Mm.
does so much work for that specific archetype. But the other one I want to talk about is maybe the strongest white card I've ever seen in like decades. Like maybe one of the, and I hyperbolize. Everybody on this show who listened to me knows that I hyperbolize. However, when we played this, I want you to know that everybody at the table stopped for a second and was like, that is a white ancestral recall. That is the most broken white card I've seen. And we've seen a lot of broken white cards coming out lately, but this is takes the cake level broken. This one is called Cut a Deal. It's a 2 and a white sorcery. Each opponent draws a card. Then you draw a card for each opponent who drew a card this way. So if you're in a 4-player game and you cast this on turn 3 or something, players A, B, and C draw 1 card a pop, and you draw 3. That is gross, and it is the whitest way to draw cards. This is fantastic. This card is stupid.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a lot to say about that card, obviously. So I will paraphrase. This is not Ancestral Recall. Ancestral Recall costs 1 mana. Let's be clear. This is more like a white Harmonize. It's
You know what, dude?
to,
I'll take a white Harmonize.
right. Secret Rendezvous was a card in Strixhaven that was for 3 mana. You and an opponent would draw 3 cards, and that had mixed reception.
Everybody loves the lesbians on the art. Everyone hates the text on the card.
Right. I think this card is like so similar to Secret Rendezvous. And in a pure math, thing, it's like I'm drawing 3 cards, and then the ambiguous group of my opponents is drawing 3 cards. Sure. I think honestly, I'm not sure which. I think Cut a Deal and Secret Rendezvous, I think their relative strength. I think sometimes it depends on your play group. I think if you are just like any random game, Cut a Deal is awesome. Your opponents are just drawing 1 card, you're drawing 3 cards, you're refueling. This is great. You're still at card parity, whatever. If you were playing a game where you are like with your friends and you know that guy is on your side, Secret Rendezvous is just great, because sometimes Secret Rendezvous is 3 mana. My team is drawing 6 cards. Like my team in this game is drawing 6 cards, which is awesome. But Cut a Deal, I think, is, there's a lot of people who bounce off of that. And Cut a Deal promises you a much more like,
Cut a Deal gives you a very clear-cut advantage. Like, yeah. Secret Rendezvous, yeah, okay, you're getting straight 3 cards, whether there's 1 player against you or 5 players. But the giving up 3 cards to a single opponent feels emotionally way different than I'm giving 3 people 1 card a pop. Because in that 3 cards, that 1 player could wreck me. But spread out, who knows? I'm still getting a brickload of cards unto myself. And everybody feels good. I mean, it was funny because when I said, okay, guys, I'm going to cut a deal. And everybody's like, well, I take that deal. I'm like, you don't have a choice. Mm-hmm. But it's nice that you said so. It's like, because cut a deal makes it feel a little bit more like I've got a say in whether it's like, no, you don't have a say. You're taking that card, and I'm taking the card. But I love it. I think it's so the apotheosis of what I want white draw to be.
Yeah. It's what I want it to be too. I mean, that's why we kind of try to make it this way. I really think that, for white card draw, any deck that wants card draw wants a way to draw cards when like a board wipe just happened. And a lot of white's card draw has been very conditional up until now. I think this is a great white feeling way just to pay 3 mana and to draw 3 cards without, insignificant downside. It's great that my opponents are drawing cards. It also makes the card, less powerful than other cards, which is fantastic. It's a white way to draw 3 cards to refuel. Everyone's refueling, but I'm refueling more. Overall, I'm really happy with where it's positioned. And now I can stop trying to make another white Harmonize.
Well, because I think that's exactly what it is. I think you hit it right there, which is you have finally figured out, like we've seen, especially in New Capenna Commander and in other recent Commander sets, we've seen a lot of these cards like, which are, I, the white player, get a reward because you have performed a game action, which is like the opposite of the red way of you're performing a game action, I'm going to deal 2 damage to you. And this way is you're performing a game action, great. I'm either going to tax you or I'm going to take my cut of that payment. And I think that is a very white way of thinking about it, which is like, I'm going to let you do the thing. I just want you to know that I'm also going to get a piece of that. Whether you want to or not, the state's going to get its cut. And I think that's such a perfect essence of white way to do this, which is why I like seeing cards like, I mean, it irritates me that so many of these like cards are like land taxi types. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
put this thing into play. If you have more lands than me, then I get a plains. Yay. Whereas this is like, look, I am proactively giving you each a card so that I can also get a card and get 3 cards. Like there have been a lot of white cards that did this historically that have been like, I give you 1 card and then I get a card, or worse.
There's a few, not a lot.
Like, wasn't there one in the dark or something that was? I mean,
I'm not the
I realize I'm
man.
talking from before you were born.
Right, I'm not the man to ask about the dark.
Oh yeah, like, did you ever see the card Fasting? One of the greatest white cards of all time.
No, let me look it up real quick.
Fasting, for those of you at home, is a 1 mana white enchantment. You may choose to skip your draw phase. If you do, you gain 2 life. If you draw a card for any reason, Fasting is destroyed. During your upkeep, put a hunger counter on it, and when it has 5 hunger counters on it, it is destroyed. So, which is to say, you can skip 5 draws to get 10 life.
This is
That sounds like
awful.
a great deal.
Well, imagine playing cut a deal, and oh wait, no, this doesn't let you skip your
Hell
draws.
no, it doesn't. It says never, no draw a card for any reason.
Okay, I
The
would
card is,
not play this card, Shivam. That's my professional opinion.
look, as a person who was playing in that era, we didn't play it either. Because even then, we were like, this is worse than Healing Salve.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why does this exist? What are you doing, Jesper, before stick to doing artwork? Um, but man, I mean, you know what other card? So let's pivot off of white for a second.
Sure.
Um, there's a red card that I saw. Let me see if I can find the name of it, which is I think actually Battles for Baldur's Gate does some really really sweet things with red that I am very excited to see. Where is this card? It just recently came out.
If you vaguely describe the
Yeah, it's the
effect,
one that you can sack treasure to give double strike.
oh, it's some swashbuckler.
Yes.
It is called.
Swashbuckler Extraordinaire.
That is it.
Yes, a Dragon Rogue Warrior, a 2/2 for 3 for 2 in a red, which is when you attack, you can when it enters the battlefield. First off, create a treasure. When you attack, you may sacrifice 1 or more treasures. When you do, up to that many creatures gains double strike until end of turn. This is the treasures um, reward that I've been looking for.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, this gives me incentive to want to not just combo off with treasures, but also punch you, and I love that. Like, it seems like a really really cool card. It was really good in the limited environment, and it just feels like it's going to play really well in the greater scheme of things. But I wanted to use that as kind of a jumping point into treasure itself. But do you have any thoughts on this card?
Yeah, I mean, this is another, for me, this slot was I needed an uncommon dragon that made treasure because I was trying to link those things up, and I want to have more treasure synergies because I like treasure. And hey, let's make another treasure synergy that promotes attacking. That's again harking on the let's attack, let's end the game, let's translate our resources that are typically used for building up a lot of dirtily play and try to translate those into damage. And then, so this is, treasure is a resource I build up and I can translate it into damage depending on my creatures that I can give double strike to, which I enjoyed a lot.
Yeah, so that leads me into the next bigger problem that we've seen, especially with New Capenna and especially with this set, and like
Mm-hmm.
Ancient Copper Dragon. Oh my god, are you kidding me with that?
Oh
Ancient
yeah,
Copper Dragon being like, hey, I attack, roll a d20 and make that many treasures.
you
Okay,
bet.
first off, as a big fan of Reckless Fireweaver, I am here for a giant dragon that nugs everybody for 20. But between this, Old Gnawbone, and like the entirety of New Capenna, there is an absurd amount of treasure running around right now. And I'm worried that there's no good way for, like, treasure both smooths out, it makes Magic way easier to play. It means I can play more colors, it means I can do more things. And being artifact synergy is great too, because it means disgusting things can happen with all the artifact coming in and out. But I'm worried that it has become so powerful that even something like Armageddon isn't a big deal anymore, because like who cares? I got 800 treasures. You can go ahead and get me all day long.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm a treasure enjoyer,
Like I love it. It's one of my favorite things, but also eating cotton candy every day will give you diabetes.
Yes, certainly eating cotton candy every day will give you diabetes, and we are, with Streets of New Capenna and Baldur's Gate, we are certainly in cotton candy season. Both of these sets have treasure themes, and I promise to you, not every set moving forward is going to have a treasure theme, but treasure was very resonant to a kind of New Yorky city kind of deal. Treasure was very resonant towards Baldur's Gate, the city of like deals and like political intrigue and
literally Dungeons and Dragons.
Yes, Dungeons and Dragons. So right now there's a lot of treasure, and in general, I think that treasure will likely remain as a fun output for red cards to do that are aimed at commander, or aimed at other stuff in general. But we won't see this density again. For what
Have
it's worth,
you thought about any kind of means of punishing people for having treasure? Like, is that something that's come? I mean, I'm not going to ask you to give me futuristic cards, but maybe like there's got to be some kind of like counterplay to that, And it's hard because I know that in New Capenna or something there was that artifact destruction spell which says even if you killed it this turn, you still take damage or something. We still need more kind of ways to be able to stifle things, or like just find a way that doesn't just involve banning Dockside.
Yeah, I would like to find interaction. Interacting with treasure is tricky because you can just sacrifice all of them in response.
There's got to be something. I mean, we need to have more cards like that one angel that stops you from sacrificing things.
Yeah, I think more sacrificing hosers will probably keep games honest, but I want to do it in a way that's interactable, that feels fair. For example, I hate Homeward Path. I don't like Homeward Path. I think it's too big of a hose.
I love that card because people steal my Voltron commanders. I need it back.
Yeah.
You don't get my mutate guide. Sorry.
I think you should just. I think it's noble to have interaction with like stealing stuff. I think it is not noble for it to be on a land and exist permanently, basically. So there's a gray area between I don't want every deck is like, oh, I'm just going to run this 2-mana artifact that says treasure can't be created. That seems really boring to me. But if there was a few more playable cards that were fighting against sacrifice permanents or something, maybe that's a better way to
go. Okay, so let's pull back a step into D&D itself. I know you're a D&D player, right?
I am, yeah.
Yeah, so have you played the old Baldur's Gate games?
They're too big for me. So I definitely was like, okay, Baldur's Gate, I'll crack into these games. Played a few hours of them, got the gist, and then I started doing other research. I played what was released of Baldur's Gate 3 at the time. Had a good time. Watched some other streams of it. I like to absorb a lot of games in different ways.
Like with Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, you'd almost be better just watching some Let's Plays.
Yeah, it was too much content, and I had 360 cards to develop and not enough time to play those games.
So, because I think this set, first off, bringing Elminster is one of the biggest misses in AFR. I'm glad he showed up, and I'm glad he looks right. And being just a wizard-focused scry guy instead of like God King Elminster is great. I appreciate that.
You guys can actually thank Aaron Forsyth for Elminster. Initially, I only had 2 Planeswalkers, and Aaron was like, why is Elminster not in this set? I'm like, okay, boss, you got it.
If you say so, I guess. Twist my arm. I don't like Minsk and Boo being Planeswalkers. I'm just going to say that straight up. Flavorfully, it doesn't work for me.
I think it worked. So it was kind of controversial. For most of the set, the type line was Legendary Planeswalker Boo, which I was able to sell people more on because Boo is from space, right? That's like a Planeswalker.
Sure, fine. I'll give you that.
But because the token was Boo, we ended up reverting the typing back to Minsk. I stand behind having Minsk and Boo as a Planeswalker. I think it makes a lot of sense for kind of our goals of having that character star build. If you look at the other Planeswalkers, right, Elminster and Tasha, neither of them have like a very heavy home in the Baldur's Gate franchise. Obviously, Elminster's been to Baldur's Gate and has presence.
I mean, Elminster is just everything, right? Like
he's too much of a everything man. Minsk was me looking for a really loud Baldur's Gate character
Mm.
to kind of up build and star build. And, he's been through a lot in his life. He's technically Boo's been through time, space. They've may or may not have traveled in time in some like comics or
Well,
whatever. So
look,
they have done traveling.
Minsk and Boo are maybe the most beloved D&D characters in like the list of like top 5 most recognizable characters of all time. You know,
Mhm.
like it's wild to me that like more people know who Minsk and Boo are than know who like, Zagzig the Mad or like, any of these like ancient like Mordenkainens and Racelands and
Right.
people, because
It's because
Minsk and
like
Boo.
most of D&D is like very goth. Like most of D&D is like very goth and like intricate, and then Minsk and Boo, he's just a guy with a hamster, and people think that's hilarious. Like they're like, "Oh, hamsters are
Go for
cute."
the
That's
eyes,
not
Boo, the eyes.
right. Like I wanna look at that thing.
Oh, you know what? Actually, going back to treasures, I just saw the card Blood Money as I'm scanning through this
Hmm.
Skyfalls thing. I really, really like this new mechanic that started showing up on a few handful of cards, which is like make treasures, but they come into play tapped.
Yes,
That is sweet.
I'm into tap treasure
Because
a
I
lot.
like
I
that
really like tap
delayed
treasure.
blast reaction. It forces you to sit on it. You can't just pop it and get off the value right off. I think that's a really important step to take. Um, just as a casual comment to you to just say.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's something I think about for treasure cards a lot. Certainly, like I love tap treasure as a knob. I think it's a great knob. I think it, kind of caps a lot of the dubiousness of some ways you could exploit treasure. And on that card specifically, it made a lot of sense because board wiping, and then it basically like otherwise, it'd be like I board wipe and then I make a million mana. It's like, well, that's
Right?
not a very fun experience.
That seems really bad.
Right. So it's better to be like I board wipe, and then you guys can rebuild, and next turn I'll rebuild even better.
Okay, so let's talk. Can we talk about these mythic dragons for a second?
Sure.
Because first off, the art in them is sweet. Like
Oh
up
yeah.
and down the street is sweet. I absolutely hate that the brass dragon, who is not the brass dragon, is tied to being a stupid undead raised dead guy.
Yeah.
That is not brass dragons. You got it completely wrong. I'm just
So
telling you to your face. Even though I drafted a pack 2, pick 1.
no, you can tell it's my face. I understand for what it's worth. Like reading the dragons, learning about those different metallic dragons, and trying to fit them on the 5 colors of magic, like was tricky. Brass dragon was the worst fit out of all of them, I believe.
Alt art.
Yeah, and I was a little bit like, oh come on, when that was the first one they showed off to people
Yeah,
was
because it
the
made me so.
worst fit and
I
the
was
least
so
most
mad that
complicated.
I'm like, this really just put me off the whole set for a minute.
Yeah, the I like those dragons. I think the cycle's really sweet. I was, really fixated on trying to roll a d20 and figure out what you can do off of just the number instead of using a table. I worked with Megan Smith to try to. We brainstormed a lot on trying to make some nice, big, splashy effects. Sorry about your brass dragon flavor, but one of them had to be the mismatch.
Fair. I mean, because like you probably don't know this, but I wrote the large chunk of the Dragons of Kryn source book for 3.5. So I
Oh
spent a
wow.
lot of time learning the ins and outs of D&D dragons really well. So like looking at I think that the blue dragon was a mismatch in the last set and the black dragon is a mismatch in this one. And not the brass dragon. Like
Hmm.
if it was a black dragon, okay, fine, go ahead, raise all the dead you want. But um it's still though, I think that they're really neat cycle. It looks really fun. They play really well. And they're exactly what you want a mega mythic to be, just absurdly splashy piles of garbage coming onto the table.
Yeah.
Copper Dragon is broken in half. The one that
Yeah.
lets you make treasures for D20 worth,
I
that's
think that's
broken in
this.
half.
I think it's the strongest one on them alone on just the merit that it's 6 mana, unlike the others.
Mm-hmm.
So it just comes out
And
earlier. It
pays
has a
for
lot of
itself,
potential.
basically.
Hmm.
But yeah, like I love the green one though, because I like seeing +1/+1 counters. I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean, I think overall they fit the wow, that's amazing feel that I want from a dragon.
Yeah.
You know, um, I love seeing Blade of Cells back and Kindred Discovery. Those are cards that needed to be reprinted. Were there any like when you were doing this? Were you trying to go for more of a flavor, or were you trying to go more for the mechanical aspect of this set?
Just in general. Well, so
Like
it's
your
kind of
overall, what was your overall like attitude? You were like, I know I'm doing. I mean, did they come to you and say we're doing Commander Legends 2 first, or did they say we're doing a Baldur's Gate set first?
At first things first was we're doing Commander Legends Dungeons and Dragons. Not shortly after that narrowed to Baldur's Gate. More conversations were had, and we stuck with Baldur's Gate. This was my first draft set, and I've said this earlier. A lot of this for me began with I need to really start from a mechanical angle to learn what elements do I want in. I don't need to go too novel. I want to be familiar in some senses so I can build something I'm familiar with. But there are many D&D driven stuff. The treasure in Black Red Sacrifice with Treasure is D&D driven. Dragons are D&D driven. The dungeon is D&D driven. All the characters individually are in some aspects D&D driven. Obviously, many of their mechanics are archetype driven. Also, commander draft, by the way, is hard. It's hard to draft a commander deck. It's hard. It's complicated.
Yeah, this is a hell of a set to start with.
Yes, it's a hell of a set. So in some sense, my goals of having familiar archetypes so that I know what to build for my first thing aligned with my goals of I need familiar archetypes so less experienced players kind of know what's going on. This is in Strixhaven where everything is topsy-turvy. This is what you should expect from Magic the Gathering. So in that sense, there's kind of a mix. I think, probably I was thinking more mechanical to start with rather than top-down, but wherever we could get top-down, we wanted to. Certainly on a lot of the choose-your-own, the modal cards, we thought there was fun stories to tell. I think the Campfire card is a good example of me thinking of this is a resonant concept that's in every D&D game as you sit down by a campfire. How do we make that a card?
Yeah, that was clever. I'd like that one a lot. That does remind me, though, of the psionic dragons were in this set. The cycle of the gem dragons, Crystal and Amethyst and friends. And I was very curious. The white one, the 4/4 Crystal Dragon, has the adventure Rob the Horde, which is return target artifact, enchantment, or legendary card from your graveyard to your hand for 1 and a white. I don't think white has had the ability to get legendary cards from the graveyard. Is that a new ability?
That's interesting. Yeah, I don't think they've done legendary specifically, but they've done a number of cards that have been able to index for a legend or
you've definitely been able to tutor for them or to search for them or whatever.
Right. It might be new. I can't sit here and promise to you that that's a new and solid thing in White's color pie more than I can promise to you that I thought it sounded cool and I thought it sounded white, and so did someone else, so we put it there.
Okay, but the reason because I was actually scrolling down to get to the gates, which is an interesting and weird subtype I did not expect to see come back, even though, yes, it's called Baldur's Gate. That makes, the second you think about it, of course there are gates. Why wouldn't there be gates? But I was wondering if there was any thought to give into reprinting some of the Gates Matter cards from, Return to Ravnica or whatever.
We did.
We
reprinted Gate Colossus. Yeah, so I didn't want to reprint colored ones. The ones I think about more fondly is Gates Ablaze, the Ram, Gatebreaker Ram or whatever, and Guild Summit. But I don't want any of the colored ones because I wanted to keep the theme mostly colorless besides the 3-color legend. I wanted to keep it so anyone could splash into. For what it's worth, there are green cards that ramp into specifically gig or can
there's the circuitous route equivalent.
Right. But mostly I wanted to keep it color agnostic because in those sets you could splash whatever colors you wanted. You could pick up all the gates. You could pick up all the gate rewards. You could go 5-color if you wanted to. You don't really have that experience here, so we probably could have made some in colors, but. We actually started, with the idea of let's just make new gate stuff. So maybe if someone wants to make a gate deck, they'll have that many more gate toys. Gate Colossus wasn't in the file until fairly late, where we realized that we were trying to make a big creature that scaled on gates. And, at some point we realized that we just, nothing we made is going to be cooler than Gate Colossus. Let's just reprint Gate Colossus. That card is so fun.
It's a house, man. That card is nutty. I mean, I really would have liked to have seen Gatebreaker Ram because I loved that archetype. I loved playing the Gates deck in what was it? Was it Ravnica or was it
Ravnica Allegiance? Maybe.
Yeah, it was in Ravnica Allegiance. I think that had the Gates. I mean, I don't know. It was so much fun to draft, though. Um, but it was really cool to be able to get these gates because, like, I think you guys did such a neat job with the 2-color ones that are when it enters a battle, it uses the jump start mechanic.
Right, the
Enters the
thriving
battlefield, choose a
lands.
different color. I love that idea. It works so well in draft.
Yeah.
And okay, I will speak for my Maze's End friends who lost their Golos. Did you guys think about a 5-color Gates boss?
Uh, I mean, I thought about it, but I never considered it seriously. I was 100% on the idea of making a 3-color one,
Hmm.
because I might show my hand a little bit. I don't like 5-color commanders that are generic in some senses,
Fair. Me neither.
and I wanted to make something that was 3-color because I wanted to give people a choice between playing a 5-color Gates deck and a 3-color Gates deck. Yes, you cannot play Golos. There are many 5-color commanders you can play Gates in. Um, so if
Yeah, Golos, I'm sorry. Golos is never coming back. That card is broken. I love Golos, and it is unbelievably broken.
mhm.
Anyways,
Yeah, I mean, I thought making a 3-color Gates thing that kind of honed on Gates more specifically was this flavor. Like the character Nine Fingers Keen, her whole deal is that she like controls all the crime in Baldur's Gate, and so like very figuratively, she has control of the gates of Baldur's Gate in that kind of sense, where she's kind of leader of the most powerful guild. And so in that sense, it's like, oh, this character like controls it. It's a great 3-color legend. It's a great sub theme for if you want to pick up a 3-color commander and you have some gates. Um, it fit really perfectly. I knew that you could have enough gates to Maze's End if you wanted to. I thought it was great that I could give you an incentive to have
yes.
9 gates and not 10 in case you didn't want to Maze's End, because I don't want to Maze's End.
I don't know. I think it was really neat. I'm sad that there's no like. I just sad that the Gates boss wasn't named Baldur. That would have been real sweet.
That
This
would have
is
been
I am
funny.
Baldur. These are my gates. But so we've been talking for a minute, and appreciate your time. By the way, I'm
Mhm.
just so excited to talk about this because I've been having such a good time. I love the new contraband beasts or whatever.
Creature contraband. Yeah.
Yeah, which is just like swords to move. Like exile a creature and then roll a d20, give them either a cow or a boar or a goat. It's funny to me that the goat's a 0/1, but there's a 1/1 bunny rabbit token in the game set. I don't,
Yeah.
but
So
I think this is adorable. This pathway
that
exile.
card, Creature Contraband, has a really interesting backstory.
Hit me.
So there's this literal canon thing in Baldur's Gate. There's this idea that animals that are larger than peacocks are not allowed in Baldur's Gate. And so there's like that's like a law there that you cannot have an animal larger than peacock. And for some reason, people have decided to like literally in Baldur's Gate, I think it's canon that there are people who try to breed larger peacocks so that they can have larger animals into Baldur's Gate. And so this was, it was like, this is so weird that animals are illegal. So let's try to make a card that, flavorfully it's about people smuggling animals. So that creature contraband is you're like busting open someone's cart and you're like, hey, you're
The
not this
cow
person.
comes out.
I found your goat, get this goat out of Baldur's Gate.
But I mean, it's such a clever mechanic for exiling that's
Mhm.
like both like, hey, I get rid of your thing, and then giving me the dice roll and a choice of like, okay, here's a bad thing and okay thing in a really good way. It's that's a chef kiss card right there. That's like clean. It's perfect. I love it. Um, is there any other cards I wanted to talk about? God, this set is hitting on all cylinders. You know what? Why don't we end with the commander that I pulled? I
Mhm.
picked Mazzy True Sword Paladin, the Halfling Knight for 1 red, green, white. It's a 3/4. And it's whenever an enchanted creature attacks one of your opponents, it gets +2/+0 and gains trample to end of turn. And that's any enchanted creature, not just
Mhm.
enchanted creature you control. And then whenever an aura you control is put into your graveyard from battlefield, exile it until the end of your next turn. You can cast that card. Dude, let me tell you, I did exactly the thing that you said. I put a goad enchantment onto somebody else's thing. They were able to get trample and run over and beat the other guy, and it felt real good.
That's
Oh,
awesome. Yeah, that card actually took a lot of iterations, but I thought I really wanted to do some sort of aura thing that wasn't, Naya auras hasn't been played since like Euro Miststalker, and that was a Voltron deck. So I
right.
really wanted to do another Naya auras thing. But literally, like, designing that card was just like thinking about paladins, thinking about vows, which are things that paladins do. It's like, what if there's a card good with vows? Because we have impetus.
Ah.
So and like auras are a thing paladins do mechanically. Like that's a word. Vows and auras are a word. So that's kind of
That's very Diablo more than D&D, dude.
auras.
Come on.
I thought paladins had auras.
Okay, maybe they do in 5th edition or something, but like when I think paladins, I think of like Holy Smite and just like hitting people. But
right.
I thought that's a really clever wordplay I didn't think about, but I appreciate.
Right, it ended up to a sweet card. Did you? And so yeah, you were playing impetuses, and honestly,
Well, I had one, but
right.
the thing is, a friend of mine enchanted their creature, and I was also able to give it that subtle bump that would help. They put an enchantment onto their Marut, which is an 8/8, and then they were able to use it to go and nug someone, and I was like, yeah. It's a really interesting political card that you don't realize is political, because everybody's like, oh, I'm just going to put these enchantments on my thing because I can reuse them and recycle them. Oh no, this can get broken real fast.
Mm-hmm.
And that's real sweet. So like, I'm going to ask your opinion to help me build a deck before the end of the week so I can take it to Richmond and make a really cool stick auras on your thing political deck.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, man, I mean, this set like is a home run on multiple levels. The Nautiloid ship is amazing. Rug of Smothering having the greatest like fake flavor text ever, which is like, I'm looking for it tied it together.
Mm-hmm.
But like, I love that being an anti-storm card.
Yeah, it's choking you.
Yeah, it's such a good card. God, there's so many good cards in the set. Like, you just nailed it. I mean, you did a good mix of reprints that needed to show up again. You did a lot of really great original cards, and some things that I'm afraid are going to break the game, and some that are like glunch, which is, I guess, another kind of group hug.
Glunch is great. Don't talk smack on Glunch.
Why did you decide another flump needed to be made?
Honestly, like that slot was like this one character that we thought was going to be in Baldur's Gate 3 ended up getting cut, and then so it was an empty slot, and I was like, we don't have a lot of monsters. Let's get a flump in here because that's hilarious to me.
It is, though. It is absolutely hilarious, and the card is sweet. The card is sweet.
I love that card.
Oh, that card's gonna be fun. Kadira, Caller of the Small is super cool. Deal combat damage for each token you control. Make a bunny. I don't know why, but I love it.
Right. That was just like, hey, we have a green-white tokens thing. Let's just make a very straightforward but awesome, exciting, simple tokens thing. That came out awesome. And, the fact that it was, honestly, the tokens it was making wasn't rabbits until the art came in. And when the art came in, we were like, okay, these have to be rabbits. And not only is it super cute, but it's very flavorful that the rabbits are multiplying.
Yeah, right. I love that. Let's see. Are there any other cards in here that I just like cannot stop talking about? I loved Wand of Wonder. I think that card is sweet. I'm glad it exists. I love there's that legend that gives all your spells myriad randomly. That's funny.
Yeah, it's a bit of a read to get through, but that definitely is the idea we're executing on.
Yeah. Were there any cards in here that you found really difficult to make?
Difficult to make?
Or like were just like a challenge to finally come around to?
I'm going to be honest, man. The Dead 3, those 3 dead gods took a lot of iterations to get through. The specific, they share a first ability where they're indestructible if you're at half your life or something. That went through so many iterations. At some point, they were indestructible, or if you had like 3 creatures in your graveyard that were each of their colors, or like if something died this turn, or you had to sacrifice something every turn. Figuring that ability out was a lot of time, and then figuring out all of their, their whenever a creature dies, something happens ability. Those guys were a lot to think through.
You know what? I have a bone to pick with you. Minthara, Merciless Soul, the Orzhov legend, is bustedly annoying. Ward X, where X is the number of Ward X, where X is the number of experience counters you have. At the beginning of your end step, if a permanent you control left the battlefield this turn, you get an experience counter. Creatures you control get +1/+0 for each experience counter. This thing is nuts. It is so easy to blink things in this stupid set, and that thing gets so big so fast, and suddenly you're staring down a 1/1 that is now a 9/1 with Myriad, and you're like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah, that's one of those cards where I just think about like an old enchantment that was kind of weak that I really liked and try to make a legend out of it. So this one's Call of Unity or something from Kaladesh or Aether Revolt.
God, that card is great. I love it. Um, man, you know what? This set, I hope that people get a chance to play it limited because it shines. It is delightful. I mean, even aside from the fact that I think it's going to make an impact in Commander in general, I hope that some of the more common creatures also do because I think some of them are just nutty. And I don't know. I'm really excited. This set was great. I had a great time playing it, and I really, really, really want to crack a Legion loyalty more badly than you know because I
Oh
need that
man,
damn card, man.
I love that card. I'm so happy that I got to convince everyone that giving your stuff Myriad is a
Oh my
white
god,
thing.
it is going to be insanely broken in my freaking soldiers deck. Are you kidding me?
Hmm.
That thing is going to be gross. I did, however, crack that Horn of Valhalla.
Hmm.
That is the most Shivam card that's ever been made.
Yeah, it makes soldiers. It gives you reward for
It's
being
just
the
like make a
creature.
whole bunch of soldiers and then a +1/+1 for every creature you control. All right, sold. I don't care. That's literally everything I want to do in life. Uh,
Perfect.
uh, yeah, man. Thank you so much for joining me today. Do you have any last thoughts of this set, or anything that I missed in telling you about how much I love this set?
Well, I mean, I enjoyed being here. You know, it's a big confidence boost to hear your reviews after playing it. I hope that we can play it together someday.
Yeah, I hope
Um,
so too. I'm gonna have to buy a set or something. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I think you've got a hit on your hands. I think this fixes a lot of the issues that I like. Commander Legend One was a really good idea, but
mhm.
I think that it suffered from all the partners it had, plus having just a very high power level and filling itself with so many awesome staples and stuff. This one has cards that I think are going to go into really interesting niche decks, not necessarily universal staples, but something for everybody level. You know, like
Yeah, that's
your
the hope.
specific deck will find things fine here, but you won't find one card that you need for every deck you have.
Yeah, my hope. You know, I feel like for this set, a lot of the rares and mythics are a little weaker on average, and a lot of the commons and uncommons are a little stronger on average. And it's really trying to make fun cards that aren't too strong. And I really hope that shines through and is a good, successful strategy. But certainly, Commander Legends 1 spent a lot of its time figuring out what should Commander Legends be. And
Mm-hmm.
Commander Legends 2 got to build off of that and figure
Yes,
out how is
like
that D&D.
all respect and love to Gavin. His passion project was a fantastic idea, and I'm glad to see that it worked well enough to get a second iteration. And I hope this one succeeds so that we can get some more. Though I would love to see more Battle Bond. Watsy, please give me another Battle Bond. Give me Conspiracy. Mix it up with Commander Legends. Give me a Commander Spirit Legend. I mean, that said, Cons- Commander Legends 2 definitely feels more like a conspiracy set, like or like Battle Bondy set.
Hmm.
Like it's got a lot of that DNA in there. Um, Displacer Kitten is broken. You should feel ashamed about that card.
But it's so cute.
Yeah, and it's gonna make 12 million docksides.
That's so
Um,
cute.
yeah, uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Cone of Cold though is a flavor win 100%. I
Oh
want
yeah.
that card in just like normal Magic. Um, yeah, man. God, I want so many of these cards. I'm so stoked to actually get to play more of it with other people, and I can't wait till other people get to see this because this thing is sick. Well done, well done.
Thank you.
For a
I do
first,
really appreciate that.
I mean, for a first time out the gate with a draft set, I think you have managed to definitely avoid. I will say this: it is really important that your messaging get across to people that they really should prioritize picking up a commander as early as they can, because they will end up screwing themselves really easily in this draft. Because you can fall into a position where you end up with two faceless ones as your commander, and that sucks, right? Like you don't want that. Um, but well done, congratulations, good job, and I hope this succeeds so that we can see more of your uh, progress. I guess.
Yeah. Thank you. I hope it succeeds as well for very obvious reasons.
For
Uh,
yes, you're like as part of my review from my bosses. I hope this does well. If folks want to ping you and let you know their thoughts about this set, where would they go?
Yeah, you could
Correct. It's
reach me
Aaron
on
Forsyth.
you can reach me on Twitter at Corey J Bowen. That's CoryJBowen. I'm pretty open to answering questions for people want. I might be doing a few other interviews, but probably not after this airs, or maybe yes after this airs. I don't know. I'm doing some
it's coming out on Tuesday, so you'll definitely hear after this
okay.
airs probably.
There will be things I will be talking. I will be hoping to talk. If you want
Is there
to,
any
if you
stories
are,
that you didn't get to tell that I was just not letting you tell?
there's a 360 cars. I feel like I could make like a TikTok about every single one of them or something. I could like talk about every single card. What is it doing? What's the story? What's going on? Blah blah blah. You covered your favorites. I'm sure you have more favorites.
This 360 cards. How many do you want me to cover? Were there any reprints you wanted to put in here that you couldn't?
There were. I will not tell you which ones they were.
Fair. Jerk. But yeah, okay, Corey. Well, thank you again for joining me today, and I hope we get a chance to play this set before too long. If not, you guys will be able to find me at least at at least at 2 different Commander Fests this summer, which is a lot. But I'll definitely be there grinding some Baldur's Gate, and if not Baldur's Gate, Mystery, because Mystery is the greatest way to play Magic. But in the meantime, you can find me on Twitter at GearUpWhereGears. You can find this podcast anywhere podcasts are sold, or at CoolStuffInc every Tuesday, or at YouTube every after Tuesday when I put it up there. And then remember, my friends, it is not magic without the gathering, and we will see you next time.